In this video, we'll discuss the features on Kanye West's face that point to a personal nature driven by willpower, expression, and drive. Enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. For today's face reading, we are looking at Kanye West. He's got a very interesting face, and I've seen Kanye West for years, obviously, and all people that I'm looking at, I'm reading their face to a degree. But there are some things that I think are worth talking about relating to his facial features and then what I've seen from him in the mainstream media, how he responds to criticism, how he presents himself in the public sphere. He's definitely a character, that is for sure. So if you are new to my channel, though, first time ever seeing a face reading video, and you don't know anything about this, please go up here and watch the 5-minute crash course face reading video. That'll give you an overview as to what face reading is and isn't. But this is a branch of Chinese medicine, so if you are not familiar with those terms, you might be a bit lost in this video. And again, I think that's a good orientation. What I noticed about Kanye, the component of his face that leapt out to me the most is kind of two-pronged approach, or two primary areas that I saw. One is his earth dominance in his face collectively. That element shines through quite a bit. So the earth element relates to the fleshiness, the suppleness, the amount of flesh, what you can call the squish factor to a degree. And he's also got a very large dominant mouth, which is that's the premier earth element feature. That's where you can see the earth element show up the most. And then second to that is the fleshiness of the face. So his face is collectively very dominant that way. It's very fleshy. He's got that dominant mouth. So there's a lot of earth metrics, and we'll talk about what that means in relation to his lifestyle and whatnot, and what we can see in personality rhythms. And then outside of that, he's also got a bottom dominant or bottom heavy face. So with that being said, with the face being dominant on the bottom side, when we see that, and we've got that going on, you have to pay attention to the elements that are associated with the lower portion of the face. So when they are lower like that, when you see like the more dominant things on the bottom, we can think about the age brackets for one, that's one layer, but then the geography, the elements that actually relate to that. So we're looking at the jawline. The jawline relates to the wood element, and then also the chin is dominant, which relates to the water element. So I'm going to go through these and talk about what those things mean, and when a face is dominant or fleshy or has mass on the bottom, what that means collectively for the life terrain, in theory, as a person's life should unfold. So let's go to the earth component first. The mouth, as I've said many times over, is an earth element feature, but it relates to the 5 senses, engaging the 5 senses, and expression. Him being an artist and him leading with his emotionality in the public sphere, I think follows suit to a degree. When a person has a dominant mouth, there's usually a large reservoir for the capacity for feeling. This isn't to say that all humans don't feel. We all feel. But again, when a feature is dominant, it just means those resources and that spectrum of experience for that person is going to be a bit more dominant. You have to allocate more energy in that department. So we all have mouths, barring some kind of physical deformity, but the idea is when it's dominant, you've got to put and invest more energy into that area to stay healthy, because form and function relate in face reading. So dominant things there, the need for expression, the need to express, and again, him being an artist and whatnot, that makes a certain amount of sense. With the fleshiness throughout his face, he's got rounded, he's got a full nose, fleshy, it's well-filled. It doesn't seem to come off as bony or pointy. So when we see those rounder, softer featured noses, we're looking more into the earth and water spectrum. So he's definitely got that. His cheeks are squishy and full. He's got good money bags, the area of the cheeks that actually have some fullness and whatnot. And then everything on his face collectively is just sort of plump. There's a little bit of a chipmunk-like quality to his face, which means a surplus of earth. The thing to remember about earth is that classically the earth element sits at the center of the 5-element wheel, and the other 4 elements flank around that primary central element of earth. And so what this sort of points to in the big picture of 5-elemental theory is that earth sits at the center. All things are birthed from earth, but it also means usually people have a good command of the other 4 elements if the earth is strong, because it's the central axis and cogwheel. Now, when we're dominant earth, it's considered lucky because you do have command and strength in the other 4 to a degree, but also what comes with that is when you're strong in earth, you've got a lot of energy that is available to move into the other four elements. And now you have a larger wheelhouse to pull from to fulfill and sustain your life force. So if a person is primarily dominant in, say, two elements like fire and water, they've got two primary wheelhouses that they need to dance through and explore to have their life force express optimally. But when you have a lot of earth, and he does have pretty strong features in the other areas, the other four elements, then it means you've got more wheelhouses to run through. And this person can either be kind of overrun with creativity, or they're going to feel like they have to do a lot of different things and fulfill a lot of different metrics and explore a lot of different avenues to feel stable. I don't know if that's true for Kanye West or not, but these are themes that I would be talking to him in relation to this earth dominance I'm seeing in his face. Now, the bottom heaviness of his face, he's thick down below. He's got kind of a wide jaw. It's thick down below. He's got a wide chin, and there's a lot of flesh down towards the bottom of the face. And if you look at the three sectors photo here too, you'll see in terms of allocations, the height of the three sectors, the lower sector here from the bottom of the nose to the chin regulates emotionality and instinctuality, which means the person typically runs that way more. They need to play to those rhythms to feel optimized. His next one is the pragmatic sphere from the eyebrows to the nose here. That's a little bit smaller. And then the forehead up top is the mental or logistical sphere. That's even a little bit smaller. So he still runs bottom heavy. And when we see fleshiness or mass down below, this strong jawline relates to wood metrics, vigor, drive, tenacity, strong boundaries, willing to be aggressive and not really feeling too bad about it. That can be physical or that can be verbal. There's a lot of different ways to be aggressive, but he's bottom heavy there. And with the chin, when the chin is wide like that and it's nice and solid, that relates to the willpower. This is actually a water element feature. So people sometimes get this confused, but I use my goatee sort of as a gauge. If you look where the goatee covers, if you think of it on a man, you could think of it in terms of a woman too if you wanted, just for visual markers. But this line from the outer edge of the lips down, that's the chin, and that relates to water. From that point on, up to the jawline and ear, that's all wood. When we see a strong chin like this, what we're pointing to, usually in face reading theory, is strong willpower, the capacity to hone a lot of will. That means driving through and completing, having the will to complete something, and then the actual energy that we use to get it done usually comes from the wood. This is why these two elements sort of bridge here. Willpower here, and then drive is the jaw. His is very heavy bottom face. So with these metrics, for a person like this, I'd be saying, look, you've got a lot of drive, you've got a lot of tenacity, most likely. You've got a lot of really strong bottom-heavy metrics. And this also means that later in life, the age brackets loosely, okay, we want to think youth here, middle age in the middle sector, and then more mass and form. The more height we have in the lower sector, we can sometimes find connections with old age luck. Essentially, there's a lot of mass and form down here. And so what I would say is, according to theory, barring any kind of physical accident, he's got a lot of energy coming in the later stages of his life. He's also got, I'll touch on this quickly, good forehead lines. So when he does this, they furrow. Usually that's persuasion. I call those the storyteller lines. A person can articulate their ideas pretty well or get their thoughts expressed into the spoken word smoother than the average person. And giving his lyrical nature and art and whatnot, I can definitely find that connection. And what else? I would say in terms of leaks, when he smiles, he doesn't get a lot of smile lines. And there's not a lot of quote-unquote joy there in terms of the marker. That doesn't mean he's unhappy all the time. But at his age, if we're not seeing lines show up here, sometimes what we'll see in face reading theory is it's said that the person has trouble carving joy into their life for prolonged periods of time. The more ingrained these lines are at rest, and then when we smile, the more we see those, the more familiar joy is in the person's life that sinks deep, not just superficial joy, but things that actually last. So those are the primary things that I saw in Kanye West. I will say he's got dominant eyebrows too, which is the upper representation of the wood element, the jaw being the lower portion. So that's about creative expression too. So getting the energy of the wood, that expressive nature, being out into the external world. But the dark side of that can also be anger, aggression, and hostility. So those large eyebrows and that thick jaw, those are metrics I would be talking to him about, saying, hey, you got to pay attention and be careful. So that's all I've got for Kanye West. If you guys have questions, please let me know. If there's anyone else you'd like me to read, please let me know. Thanks.